Guys, Tyson Popplestone here from Relax Running. Great to have you here. Today I'm going to walk you through a technique analysis session with an athlete by the name of Mark. Before we get into that, one thing I want to let you know is if you're familiar with the Relax Running channel, perhaps new here, you might be aware of the fact that we work with a wide range of athletes from running-based sports when it comes to structuring running training programs specific to the sport that you're training for. We work with athletes from the 5K and lower all the way up to the marathon and beyond. But one area that we work with closely with a number of the athletes that we coach is the technique, or developing a more efficient technique. So one thing I was excited to let you know about before we start this is maybe you've been looked after with a coach, maybe the training side of your running has been looked after, but you could do with some advice or guidance on developing a more efficient running technique. That's what these analyses are about. This is something that we do to help you run, saving more energy so you can run faster for longer, which obviously in a sport like running, triathlon, or any running-based sport is absolutely crucial. So because this is a brand new membership, we're excited to let you know that for the next 6 weeks, we're going to be doing a discounted members rate where you'll pay $19.95, that's Aussie dollars, a month for as long as you're a member. It doesn't matter how much the prices go up, you'll never pay more than that. So if you'd like to work with me on developing a more efficient running technique, hit the link in the description below and sign up there for that discounted members rate to kickstart this membership. But for today, let's have a look at Mark. A bit of background on Mark. He, at the age of 17, ran 4:01 for 1,500 meters. For a variety of reasons, stepped away from the sport and recently has decided to get back into it. He's looking at improving not only his training, but also his running technique. So this is the very first session that we've ever done together. This is the first bit of footage that he ever sent through. Sit back, enjoy, leave any comments or questions down in the comment section below. And if you enjoy this, make sure you check out the Relax Running podcast. Hit subscribe. Got new stuff coming out here each and every week. G'day Mark, mate, thanks so much for sending the footage through. Obviously I've had a good look at the front on footage, the side on footage. Here we've got you running from a front on angle towards the camera at 5-minute K pace. I think for today's example, I actually think the side on footage of you running serves as the best example of areas that we can improve. Before we get into any of that, I can see you've definitely got a background. You still look fit, like you still look as though you move across the ground quite well. I know you said it's been a little while since at 17 you ran 4:01 for 1,500 meters, but even still, I mean, that muscle memory is a thing, and you still move across the ground relatively well. Just before we get into what I actually want to focus on today, I thought I'd give you a bit of an idea about what I'm actually looking for when I watch an athlete's technique. First of all, first and foremost, I'm looking at where tension is stored, and that's the reason I actually like to get some slower footage of an athlete running and some faster footage of an athlete running, because sometimes what appears to look okay when we're just jogging can often be exaggerated when we move at a fast pace, or not just a fast pace, but also when we're under fatigue. In an ideal world, it would also be great to get a little bit of footage of you running towards the end of a difficult session, and just seeing how some of the ways that you hold yourself either change or are exaggerated. I think watching this footage, the first thing that stands out, you can see from, and you don't have to have a necessarily well-trained eye, your arm swing, it's not Robocop-like, it's a little more mechanical, and you can see that just through the way that you hold your arms. It's a very back and forth kind of motion. There's not a whole heap of arm movement across the front of the chest. You can see just as we come towards the camera, you know, each hand, it's pretty much not directly straightforward, but it's very close to being straightforward. And a lot of the time when we see an athlete who has a very forward arm motion like that, it suggests that there could be a little bit of tension through the scapula, because that, or the shoulder blades, because the range of motion through that upper body is obviously limited when there's tension through that. Its ability to be able to have a really natural flowing arm swing is impacted. But I think this is more clear on the side version, which we're going to have a look at now. So essentially, before we get into what I want to work on with you today, I think one important thing is just to know that my approach to these analyses is to give you one particular strategy, one particular tip at a time, rather than having an athlete come and saying, all right, we're going to work on these 10 different things, and just feeling as though you're completely fire hosed with information. I think if we can get one cue down pat, you can feel the change, you can feel the difference, you can see the benefit, you can understand the benefit, and we can go back and forth implementing some of these changes. I think once that one thing is locked in, then we can start to address a number of other things. Now, I'm not saying that you have 10 different things that you need to change. I'm just saying, let's be patient with the process, because though it can be frustrating, going, I just want to fix everything all at once. I think what's more beneficial from what I've experienced as an athlete myself, but also with the athletes that I've worked with, is sometimes a slower, more patient approach can have a longer lasting, more beneficial impact. Let's master the one skill before we move on to the next one. The more natural we can make it, the more easy it's going to be to move on to any other areas. This doesn't necessarily have to take a long time. It just takes more conscious effort. So let's just have a look at this side footage. Though it's relatively short, I can slow it down. As you come through, so my speculation that there might have been a little bit of tension through your shoulder blades, I think is made more clear on this side angle here. So just to be completely clear for yourself and for anyone who's watching this, I'm talking about that tension at the end of this arrow. Now, you don't have to be a genius to see what I'm speaking about here, or to get an idea of how this tension can actually impact your running efficiency. If you just stand there, even as you're watching this, and bring your shoulder blades close together, and feel the difference in a number of things here. First of all, with the tension through your shoulder blades, try to have a nice relaxed arm swing. So just make the motion of your running arms there where you are with the tension coming through your shoulder blades. But more than that, have a little bit of a think about how your breath feels with that tension there. Can you feel a little bit of a limitation through your lungs, a little bit of tension through your chest, which is impacting negatively how effectively you're actually able to onboard oxygen? I think this thing is, though it's not uncommon, a lot of athletes store tension through their shoulder blades. You'll also see it through the shoulders coming up between or up sort of towards the bottom of the ear, especially in the latter parts of a race where fatigue's really kicking in. You'll also see tension through sort of jaw and neck. So where you're storing this tension is not uncommon. The way that we improve this is simply through an awareness of it. This looks like, and I mean, I could just be guessing here, but this is just a habitual thing from what I can see. So it's a lack of awareness of the fact that it's even going on. So firstly, the awareness factor to this is, do you carry this kind of tension throughout your shoulder blades just throughout your day? Maybe you do when you're stressed. But I would guess that there's a very good chance that this is a running movement. This is something that happens when you're moving, when you're running. And it's based solely on the fact that, first of all, you're not aware of it. Second of all, you haven't been taught any skills on how to alleviate it. The first thing you've got to do is just develop an understanding of what relaxed shoulder blades feel like. And this is something that I'd encourage you to do right now. Anytime I try and express relaxation or a part of the body free from tension, I think sometimes watching these are the most effective, because it's when we're not running that we're often the most relaxed, or you can at least develop the awareness of what relaxation feels like. So I would say get a little bit of a feel for what it actually feels like not to have any tension through those shoulder blades, and be honest with yourself when you go out for a jog or a much quicker paced run. Do you notice a difference between the relaxed tension through there and the tension that you're feeling as you run? Now, with the risk of oversimplifying it, from what I've seen and experienced, I think the most effective way to alleviate this tension is simply through, as I said, the awareness of it, but then a breath which serves as its release point. I am very, very shocked, or I'd be very shocked if there's a more effective way to release tension that isn't awareness of and then a breath to release it. So what I would say is the first point of call as we're working with just releasing this tension through the scapula is for just to really emphasize my point, is develop an understanding of what relaxed shoulder blades feel like and how that changes as you run. The reason this is so important is obviously not only does it affect the tension that you hold and the impact of the breath or the quality of the breath that's coming through as you run, particularly towards the latter stages of a race where the quality of oxygen coming into our body is essential. It also can have a negative impact on our upper body's arm swing. What I'm saying there is when there's tension through the shoulder blades. Let me just have a look at the faster footage of you. It might make this even more clear. It can also lead to a little bit of over-rotation, because if the upper body's ability to swing its arms is impacted by the tension through the shoulder blades, the arm swings can't have a natural movement back and forth. The over-rotation that can come through your upper body, though it's, I don't think, incredibly clear through this side-on footage, is impacted as well. So for today, I think our first point of call is a release of the tension through the shoulder blades. The release of the tension through the shoulder blades is going to have a bit of a multifaceted impact on your running technique as we go forward as well, because if you have a look at the angle of your body, you're relatively upright, not directly upright, but your upper body is definitely towards a more upright, slightly leaning back posture. So a lot of the time, just for clarity, you'll have athletes that sort of lean towards three different postures. First of all, you'll have the athlete who they lean forward from over the hips and their lower body goes in a different direction. Obviously, something like this really impacts things like knee lift. The other kind of athlete that you'll see is sort of the opposite. They're leaning completely back. Now, obviously, with something like this kind of a technique, it being a momentum sport, it's like we've got the brake pads on every single step. I would say what we want to develop is a relatively one-directional, slightly forward-leaning angle from the top of your head to the back of your heel. Now, this is exaggerated. That's on a forward-leaning angle, just like what this line here expresses. I mean, David Rudisha is a great example of this. Obviously, the momentum that we carry through a stride like that is far more clean and far more suited to a momentum sport like running. The relaxation through your shoulder blades, I think, is going to be a really big step in us taking the next step, which is going to be the direction that you're operating at. So for today, to boil everything that I've just spoken about down, firstly, mate, your foundation is great. You're clearly a smooth operator. I can see, I mean, just the quality of the leg muscles, the quality of the movement of the lower body across the ground is very clear. I think a release or an awareness and then a release of the tension that's through the shoulder blades is step one. And then from there, as you start to progress in that awareness, from being before you're running to when you're jogging to when you're operating a faster pace, if you start to sense it, develop the ability to release that tension through a breath and feel what that feels like. Just notice the difference in that. Do a few strides, feel what I'm talking about. Re-upload more footage. Together, we'll have a look at how that's impacting a couple of the things, your upper body movement, the mechanical movement of your upper arm, and then from there we'll take steps towards improving the actual posture that you hold when you run. Though I would say it's definitely not bad. You're doing a lot right. I think this is one step to make it even smoother. So if there's anything that I've said that's unclear or anything that needs clarifying, feel free to ask me in the chat section to this analysis. But for now, let's focus on that. And I would say in the next sort of 7 to 10 days, if you could upload some more footage, it'd be really helpful in us taking the next step forward. But thanks for sending it through, Mark. I'm looking forward to round 2, and keep up the great work.